to you. Welcome to Newsmaker Live right here on DBS Television. My name is Timothy Pooley and we'll be together until 10 o'clock this evening, at which time we'll be concluding with the clip that peaked, and that is on a very entertaining note. Of course, during the course of the broadcast, I'll give you the opportunity to call in to pose questions to my guest, and also you'll have your own comments to make if you care to. We'll be focusing on two issues. I know that you love the politics, so we'll be focusing on recent political events in St. Lucia, and of course that observance that is scheduled for tomorrow, and that is the Feast of Musicians. So we are killing two birds with one stone on our broadcast this evening. And who better to do that is Buffalo Odlum, political activist and musician. I've given you my own designation, political activist and musician. Welcome to the program.
Welcome. Thank you, Timmy. And just saying good night to the nation. And I think it's an opportune time to mix the two.
Now, if you're talking about the recent political events as recent as yesterday, and that is the vote of no confidence in Prime Minister Alan Chastanet. And full disclosure, you're also a member of the governing United Workers' Party.
Yes.
You're very much part of the campaign in the last general election,
yes.
and so on. Your thoughts on the decision taken by the St. Lucia Labour Party to have this vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister?
Well, TP, let me say thanks for being here. And you see, to deal with and to consume the political trajectory of the recent Labour Party, you have to reflect on the past. And I guess that is where people like Rick came in and Peter Josie came in and stuff like that, because motions of no confidence have been passed in the past.
And your uncle, George Odlum.
That is John, right. Yeah. I mean, there was a point in my life I supported the Labour Party because I was the nephew of George Odlum. There was a point when I came from studying, having experienced different systems and different processes, that I made up my mind not to support the Labour Party. And that's for different reasons. But coming to the motion of no confidence, I think the acquisition of the leadership of the St. Lucia Labour Party by Philip J. Pierre, I think he's lost a very good opportunity to change the trajectory, to change the fact that people had rejected the former Prime Minister and voted for a new government, that he had that chance.
But you think it's too early to already give the impression that he has already failed?
No, well, I'm not saying he's failed, but he has failed to present a new Labour Party, because he didn't fight for it. You know, he got it by default. And most times, you know, we talk about the fact that there is not a continuance plan for in the political arena.
Let me challenge you on something. You just said that he got it by default.
He got it by default.
Don't you think that he earned it? Because he has been in the trenches with the St. Lucia Labour Party for a very long time. Remember him being an opposition senator. Remember him contesting the Castries East seat unsuccessfully against Mr. Romanus Lancico, and then subsequently he won in 1997. In 1997, serving as the deputy to Dr. Kenny Anthony up until last year when he became the political leader. So I'm saying to you, my argument is that he earned it. The
leader of the St. Lucia, of the parliamentary opposition, is the spoiled child of politics in St. Lucia, and that's why I'm gonna keep saying that he got it by default. There were periods in the history of the Labour Party where Philip J. Pierre could have taken the mantle because he wanted it.
But challenged Dr. Kenny Anthony?
Challenged Dr. Kenny Anthony because he was rejected.
Yeah, but which deputy in the right mind would do that? I cannot remember Mr. George Mallet ever challenging George Odlum. I'm not George Odlum, sorry. John Compton. That will never happen.
Well, Tim, in the history, the history of the United Workers' Party, up to 20 to 25 years in existence and being in governance, there was not even a legal, or should I say legitimate clause in the Constitution for you to challenge the political leader within the party. That was changed under Dr. Lewis, where the political leader could have been challenged. That never existed within the St. Lucia Labour Party. And we know how vociferous the Labour Party was. The Labour Party, we have to go back into the history and the philosophy of the Labour Party.
Because if Mr. Philip J. Pierre, along the way, ever challenged Dr. Kenny Anthony, don't you think that would have sparked some kind of leadership struggle, which plagued the St. Lucia Labour Party between 1979 and 81?
Well, the leadership struggle at that time, it was handled badly by George. It was handled badly by the party. And I think the outcome was devastating for the Labour Party. And maybe they never recoup from that.
Because you always have to be
deputy prime minister and to make things, put things in line.
Because you have to be concerned about the optics, how people will see it. People not see is democracy at play. Mr. Philip J. Pierre challenging Dr. Kenny Anthony, that's democracy. Whoever wins will become the legitimate political leader. And so that's not how it will play out, especially in the camp of the United Workers' Party.
Well, we know what happened in 82 when the St. Lucia Labour Party lost. We know what happened to Kenny Anthony. We knew what happened to the Labour Party and the different stages the Labour Party went through. It's a new era now. And I thought to myself that, remember, one of Kenny Anthony's, or Dr. Kenny Anthony's conditions for coming down in 95 was that he shall not be challenged. That reigned throughout the reign of the St. Lucia Labour Party. And he put that stamp there, and I don't know, detrimental to the development of the St. Lucia Labour Party, I think. And by 97, I was a non-supporter of the Kenny Anthony St. Lucia Labour Party because it was New Labour. And there's a difference. That is why in joining these political organizations, we must always look back at the philosophy and what led to the construction and the development of these parties. You go back to adult suffrage, you go back to the trade union movement, the Labour Party will always be a very viable organization, especially in opposition. Now, one has to ask themselves, what is happening to St. Lucia now? It's not about Alan Chasney. It's about the development of our civil society, development of our self-consciousness, and development of our rights. The only reason we could challenge Alan Chasney now is because seemingly there is a plan. Under the Labour Party, there was never a plan. Developmental or otherwise, there was never a plan. So we as the citizenry can challenge what's going on there now. The tenure of the Labour Party was detrimental to the development of St. Lucia. Especially,
in what sense?
Listen to me, in the time of George Josie and that movement was 20,000 times more vigorous than what is going on now. It was intellectual, it was social, and it was educational. We got the educational component, that why we challenged Sir John at the time. Why did we challenge the system at the time? Why we wanted to go in a new direction. There was a new philosophy for the Labour Party. And in 79, we knew what happened. But Philip J. Pierre has missed the boat. He has missed the boat in my view. There is an opportune time to redirect, refashion, even the thinking politically as to where he's taking his party. When the Jesus Christ Kenny Anthony came down in 95 and we voted for him in 96, we said, wow, TJZ.
97.
In 97, July 97. Now, Kenny Anthony found an economy based...
It was May 1997. May 23rd.
May 23rd. Based on a tripod. So John was industry, agriculture, and tourism. Okay? Now, the philosophy of the Labour Party was clear then. They moved straight to tourism. It was comprehensive, it was vigorous, his movement. So, in my personal capacity, I was like, wow, Kenny Anthony, a lecturer, an educator, an intellect. Wow, we are going to go there. Kenny Anthony, the lecturer, the educational component, I found what was brought to the political atmosphere was not conducive to the development. I honestly think that the hypocritical style of Kenny Anthony, I'm not saying he's a hypocrite, but we've seen in many cases that it was detrimental to the Labour Party. It was.
So what explains the St. Lucia Labour Party, therefore, winning the 1997 election under Kenny Anthony and also winning the 2001 general election, lost in 2006, and came back again in 2011 under Dr. Kenny Anthony?
The Labour Party of 1979 came in, and there was social movement, the Bank of St. Lucia. The socialist philosophy of the Labour Party of 79 reigned under Peter Josie and George Odlum. There was the establishment of the Bank of St. Lucia. There was the establishment of a new projection in agriculture. There was a social movement that came with 79, and it's unfortunate that it was done by 82 because of the agreements and, you know, I saw it as the whole animal farm scenario that came back to haunt the Labour Party. And at that time, the Labour Party dealt with philosophy, their own philosophy and sociology. That is my view. And I thought we lost that as a nation. We lost the educational component. We lost the drive and the passion from the George Odlums, the Gregor Masons, the Peter Josies, the Alan Louis. I thought we lost that, and we welcomed a new system of Labour Party that has not done well for St. Lucia.
What do you think Mr. Peter Josie, Philip JP should do differently?
Well, I thought he has the opportune time came in his acquisition of the head of the party, the leader of the party, that you do some introspection. You don't just take it where it was left by the Honorable Kenny Anthony, because obviously we didn't buy into it. There is agitation and there is aggravation. You look at the pulse of the nation. You cannot create a pulse, right? So there are two. St. Lucia has missed the boat in many aspects. Human rights, the rights of the child, social development, and civil societal development. Now, what is going on there? Let Philip JP not confuse the development of the society and civil society with opposition. He must not, and I thought the last demonstration, St. Lucians came out, kudos to St. Lucia, because it was led by the opposition. The first thing I said, let not the Honorable Dr. Kenny Anthony think that it's a movement to exonerate himself. He must never do that. In my view, Dr. Kenny Anthony had all the bells and whistles to reproject, reprogram, and redirect this country, both from an infrastructural standpoint, which I put third, but first from a sociological and educational standpoint. And I thought he missed it. So the Honorable Philip JP has to take all these into consideration and know what does he want for his St. Lucia Labour Party. And if he is true, he'll be followed.
So you think nothing has changed as far as the new ethos of the St. Lucia Labour Party under Philip JP?
Nothing has changed. We saw.
What are the changes? What are the changes you think that are needed?
Tim, between 2006 and 2011, we saw the most desperate attempt I saw in the House of Parliament to regain power was under the Honorable Kenny Anthony. I saw anger, I saw aggravation, and I saw a very frustrated opposition leader. And by the time election came, I think it was sheer desperation. Now, having considered all that, if you handed a party as the Honorable Philip JP has done, you do that kind of introspection, you bring in a team, that think tank, that will dissect and analyze what went wrong. So as hypocritical as what is going on, as the vote of no confidence, you know, I wish Rick was on this program, because Rick would tell you how many of the then members of the Labour Party, after the 2006 results of the general election, said that it was Kenny Anthony's fault. and none of them had issued a vote of no confidence during the tenure of opposition, when they said behind Kenny Anthony's back that he was the reason they lost.
But the SLP is now is saying, and in particular Mr. Philip J. P. is saying, that the whispers, members of the government, they have some difficulty with how Mr. Alan Chastanet is managing the state. But he wants those people to come forward now and to express their displeasure by voting against the Prime Minister as far as this motion of no confidence is concerned.
That's hypocritical. Tim, remember in 2005, there was a problem with the fire service, around that era. And in Kenny Anthony's absence, Philip J.P. came to the fore, and he seemed to have quelched the situations that were going on with the police and what. And here came the caption, "Pip Pip Hooray," because he did, People saw that as a no confidence in the then Prime Minister. Right? There was an opportunity that was seized by Philip J.P. to quelch and to bring results to some social and governmental issues of that day, which he solved. So tell me, what? No confidence? It is hypocritical right now for the leader of the opposition to come with that. He doesn't look the part. He doesn't sound the part. He has not earned that part.
What do you mean by it doesn't look the part?
Let me tell you.
Sound like a very strange comment that you're making.
Let me tell you, it's not a strange comment. When you're true, we follow you. When you a leader, you don't learn leadership on the job. You either come as a leader or you come as a follower. When you change in midstream, it is more difficult to prove your worth. And this is what Philip J.P. is going through right now.
But still, to me, it does not explain what you mean by he does not look.
The agitation. You know what then Honorable Richard Frederick may have gotten away with, what Donald Trump may get away with, that a Stephenson King or a Barack Obama may not get away with. Because agitation, when you look at it, it's a process. Suddenly, Philip J.P. became analytical, analyzing the economy, analyzing the budget, he was never leader of government business. Where was he? Was that silenced deliberately? And some of his analogies are quite admirable, I must say, in trying to, where was that? Where was that 10 years ago? Where was that 5 years ago? Under Kenny Anthony, what? Was it smothered? I mean, come on. So people are not stupid. Consistency, that is why I say you don't sound the part. Because suddenly you're an agitator. Suddenly you're that aggressive in the absence of the Honorable Dr. Kenny Anthony. People will not buy into it. But you just don't look the part.
He's playing his role as political leader. He was the deputy political leader during the reign of Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony. In a team, a cricket team, you have the captain setting the field and so on. Mm-hmm. Should the vice captain play the role of the captain?
When he's called?
Or should he should he work in unison with his captain?
It depends on why you're given or why you voted for or selected as the vice captain. It depends on why. Because Darren Sammy may have been selected as captain because of his analytical ability. Maybe not his scoring ability, because I think too, he came in as a bowler. He tried to make himself a batsman, but he came in as a bowler. He forgot his role, why he came in there. Okay, so when you're given these jobs, you have to do this self-examination as to why you're here. Never, if I want to be the political leader of a party, if I'm voted as deputy political leader, at any legal opportunity, I will want to be, and I will go for the leader of the party respectfully and legitimately. There's no two ways about it. You either have it and you don't, or you don't have it.
But how you think the nation would read that? Wouldn't they see it as some kind of internal wrangling, internal strife that in the end can work against the St. Lucia Labour Party in terms of its stability? If Mr. Philip JP had ever challenged Dr. Kenny Anthony.
Tim, it augurs well for the members of the St. Lucia Labour Party. The same way it would augur well for the members of the United Workers' Party. Let's not be hypocritical. Even right now, the way parenting, the way we lay down our rules, they were going to be challenged. Nothing is traditional. If we're evolving, and there is nothing wrong in my son challenging me with my rules in the house, I will not consider him to be rude. I will consider him to be...
What? So you're saying it's just the method employed?
The method employed, or the method established. And that was established within the Labour Party by the Honourable Kenny Anthony.
Now, just recently, the United Workers' Party held its conference of delegates.
Yeah.
And Mr. Alan Shastney returned as political leader unopposed. The two deputies returned unopposed.
Yes.
Isn't it safe to say, based on your argument, that somebody should have challenged Mr. Alan Shastney?
At this point, no. We have to understand that the reason why we're agitating, and I'm talking about the nation, and we're having this dialogue, is because there is a plan. The Honorable Alan Shastney was voted for in 2016. He got the mandate from us St. Lucians. He has to be given that chance. Now, whilst we are agitating, and even the agitation that came from the 70s and 80s, and that's where I think the Labour Party missed out, that Alan Shastney has his plan, his trajectory. He's a very focused leader, and he knows that he has to bring his people along with him. The process by which he's bringing his people along with him may be questioned, but he knows where he wants to go. Now, we as a nation, just like political parties have to even inculcate into their members to challenge them as candidates, as wannabe, as representatives, to give us, and to even give them a fair feeling of where they're at. You know, that thing about, representatives and what the nation is crying out, that they're blaming a lot of the politicians for the political division. Tim, there should not be any political division. Politicians should learn to trust St. Lucians and to trust their judgment, the good people of St. Lucia, and teach them to be critical thinkers, meaning to even criticize themselves as politicians, that they have failed in this, but they'll try to do better. And that we need to stop promoting this agitation without education or without alternatives. And that's what the Labour Party is doing. And if you notice, Tim, there is a pulse in the nation. The nation is not buying it. The nation is not buying it. The nation is very patient with the current United Workers' Party, as much as some people feel slanted by the developmental process. It has to take place. And certain eggs will be broken. But the Honourable Alan Shastney is taking this country where it needs to go, in my view.
But do you think it's a risky move? Because naturally, as human beings, we do not like change.
You cannot be a leader and don't be a risk taker.
We do not like change.
We do not like, but you cannot be a leader and don't be a risk taker.
In politics, is that a methodology that should be employed?
It should be.
Because...
Not employed now, it should be deployed.
Because very often, you pay a very heavy price when you take decisions that are very unpopular.
You need to trust the electorate. In 2006, there was this unstable feeling. In 2006, the United Workers' Party came in. By 2011, there was this unstable feeling. Politically, the economy was doing well. As a country, infrastructurally, we were okay. But the good people of St. Lucia voted the United Workers' Party out. Right? They voted us out because they saw politically there was this, whether it came from individuals, but it resonated with the the calm of the party, they voted the United Workers' Party out. So we must trust the good people of St. Lucia.
And I've always said that the people have never made an error.
They have never made an error.
Whether they vote the United Workers' Party into office or the St. Lucia Labour Party.
They have never made an error.
Vice versa. But with regard to the United Workers' Party and the administration right now, how should one determine whether there is buy-in on the part of, as you put it, the good people of St. Lucia? Because we don't have this tradition of having those polls being undertaken by media houses, as being done in Barbados, Jamaica, and so on. How do you gauge the pulse of the people?
Tim, to gauge the pulse of the people, you have to go back. The advent of John Compton, George Odlum, Alan Louisy, Gregor Mason, George Charles, that from an educational standpoint and from a social standpoint, we were a much more developed and a much more civilized society in the 60s, 70s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. We were. Now, we knew what we were. We knew what we felt as a nation. We produced these people because of who we were. The social groups, sporting groups, as a country, as vigorous as the election was, we knew when to come together, right? The Labour Party has kept us apart. There's no two ways about it. The educational component of the politicking is non-existent. The fact that we're not critical thinkers.
But you have the rhetoric coming from, and the bad blood coming from both sides.
Both sides.
But why are you constantly pointing an accusatory finger at the St. Lucia Labour Party and freeing the United Workers' Party and I'm not freeing the various candidates and so on of any kind of blame?
1997 came the Honorable Dr. Kenny Anthony. We saw a new view, one of doctoral status, clean, young. We said from a constitutional standpoint, he did nothing. From a social standpoint, in my view, he missed out. From an infrastructural standpoint, as to what he wanted for St. Lucia, we saw that the proliferation of more intellects and more people who have studied, and we saw that. We saw that. Now, with the combination of the then St. Lucia Labour Party, there were a lot of good that came out. But as far as the nation was concerned, where do you want to bring the nation? That we could have changed the constitution. We need a 3/4 majority. He had 7/8. That was an opportunity to redirect the thinking, the pulse, our policies, where we want to go as a nation. How do you educate? How do we replicate and reproduce the Nobel laureates and the citizenry that we had without making the politics and politicking dégliser that? And that is my view.
Come next year, what are you expecting in terms of politics, particularly from the government? What are you expecting from the government of St. Lucia?
From the government of St. Lucia?
Because I think we've left the era when we should be making excuses for the government and saying give the government time.
The government needs to deliver. There are a lot of projects in the pipeline. The people are waiting with bated breath, and they're very patient with with the Honorable Alan Chasney and waiting. And in my view, I think he's going to deliver. Now, you find with what's going on with the social activity, when comes the economic activity, right? The Prime Minister is very careful that when we don't just unleash a barrage of projects here and as foreigners benefiting. So you find he's going back into re-educating, re-grooming the nation in preparation for what is there to come. The educational system is being tweaked. The agricultural system is being tweaked. So it's no need handing St. Lucia all these goodies, and we were not prepared. So the Prime Minister asked for 3 years. I found no government could make that necessary change in 3 years. But I'm giving him 3 years. And he is the kind of guy that you can criticize. You would have a discourse with him, he'll give and take, but in his concentration, his projection, his trajectory is very, resolute. But we know within the United Workers' Camp that the process, the plan for this country is unanimous. That this is how we're going. This is how, and in 20 years, we're going to look back. And the same criticisms we had of Sir John 20 and 25 years ago, which some people have of the Honorable Alan Chastanet now, we're going to look back in 20 years and said, you know what? He did, and he delivered.
I'm putting it to you that some of your friends in the St. Lucia Labour Party, they will not think too kindly of you based on your approach, right, based on what you're saying, and because you're very critical of the St. Lucia Labour Party.
Well, yes.
And as far as the United Workers' Party is endless, a barrage of kudos.
Yes.
And especially for the
kudos
Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister. Mm-hmm. The Prime Minister has a team, and the team is working. And I know that the team has full confidence in the Prime Minister. The reason why social media, social society, and the society as a whole, because it's turbulent, because he's shifting, he's moving things around, he's thinking. Under the Labour Party, civil society is dead. Civil society goes to sleep. The nation goes to sleep under the Labour Party. Because what? Not to be criticized. So then we find out most of what was being developed during their tenure comes out after that. This is what happened. That was the plan, like we've seen now. The hypocrisy of the developmental process that's going on now and the reaction to it is hypocritical. It is hypocritical. And that I remember in 2007 thereabout, when we brought in a new process with the ID cards, with that department, there was opposition from Dr. Kenny Anthony and the St. Lucia Labour Party, but it was signed by him. That hypocrisy still continues.
You're watching Newsmaker Live right here on DBS Television. My guest is Mr. Buffalo Odlum. In our second segment, we will lower the tempo a bit. We'll be focusing on the music industry in St. Lucia, and in particular, the observance of St. Cecilia's Day. And of course, you'll get an opportunity later, if you care to challenge Mr. Buffalo Odlum on some of the things that he has said so far during the first segment of the program. Stay with us. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. Based on how the first segment went, I think you might want us to still focus on politics, but we have to change gears. Once again, my guest this evening is Buffalo Odlum, political activist and also musician. He's very much involved in preparing and hosting several activities, organizing activities for tomorrow's observance of St. Cecilia's Day. What is there to celebrate when it comes to our music industry in St. Lucia and our musicians, Buffalo?
Basically, what's there to celebrate is our passion. Our passion and our ability.
Do we really have a local music industry per se?
No, it's sadly, no. I think to be a musician, it comes with a certain amount of dedication and passion. Sometimes you play for nothing, because you play because you enjoy it. But growing up, I loved to see musicians play, and that's what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But then, having gotten older and seeing the reality of the industries and the industry that obtains out there, that there's a different aspect to how you cultivate your passion. Realistically, there's an economic benefit to it, one that is self-sustaining, life-sustaining, and one that should be honest. And I must say, different political parties, they've tried to, in different ways, try to boost the local music industry, but we're faced with a lot of challenges.
What are those challenges?
The price of equipment and togetherness it is like social and sporting groups, Timothy. It's difficult to keep groupings together, and that is very scary to me.
In terms of the price of the equipment, shouldn't government is not giving musicians concessions?
Well, yeah, there are processes that and opportunities, like with if you're a member of the CDF and you're registered, you could get probably a 50% deposit discount on the duties affiliated to instrument the importation of musical instruments. But there is a nation out there that knows the musical history of St. Lucia, and there is a new world order, the new Turks in town, who do not know and don't know the history of the music of St. Lucia. So part of keeping St. Cecilia's Day alive is to bring that nostalgic and historical value back to the musicians.
But earlier on you made a point about the lack of unity. I mean, we've been speaking about that for the better part of over a decade now. Why do you think that musicians are not making progress in that particular area?
TB, there are a number of reasons. Number one, a lot of musicians came into the industry not understanding that it's a profession that comes with dedication. It comes with a lot of discipline as far as mastering your craft, and it comes with a lot of perseverance. But if you're not trained to persevere, or if you're not trained to make use of your talent, it will always be like a hobby. So we had a lot of musicians and a lot of players of instruments who just saw music as a hobby. But there was also examples to follow, like in the time of Big Six, in the time of True Tones for sure, and stuff like that, that we had bands who survived together. They recorded and they played, and they were unified by one common goal, their love for music, and they're aspiring to be professional musicians even at that time.
What will cause there to be some kind of major improvement?
Well, we have to regroup. We have to regroup. The Calypso Association, the Music Association, the Producers Association, because within the New World Order, they hardly speak to individuals. They speak to groups. You would speak to a producer, he would tell you, where's your team, your PR team, your management team. There are some of us. Teddyson John, he has that down pat. He has a marketing team, a management team. He's focused. Then, you dance a yard before you dance abroad. Some of the guys know you dance abroad before you dance a yard. So they go out, ply their wares out there, and they come back and they share it with us. But sometimes it is sad to say that you would be on a hustle in St. Lucia as a musician, but there is no respect for you as a musician.
But you think it's because the musicians are not earning that kind of respect?
Many of them are not earning that kind of respect, to the chagrin of many of those who are organized. We have people like Jab de Plaisy, we have people like Clarence, we have Barbara Cadet, who these people are organized, talented, educated, and regionally and internationally they are known. But St. Lucia needs to develop in terms of how we support our musicians, how we look at the musical industry. We have to debunk the old Negma Wokajwe Pan, and all these things. So we have to debunk these.
But I don't think that things have changed as far as people supporting local music.
Yes.
Because the quality has improved markedly.
Yes.
Maybe because of technology, because of the injection of new talent.
Yes.
But people now put our music on par with the music coming from North America, the music coming from Jamaica and Barbados and so on. So the owners, therefore, would be on the musician to put the house in order. What will it take to come set up an organization? Because I think you started to in that direction in terms of organizing and setting up STAMP.
Yes. I was one of the original members.
What has happened to STAMP? Does it still exist?
It has evolved, but it never took off the way we wanted to. But there are a few of us who were dedicated to doing that, and then we got support from the St. Lucia Labour Party, as far as the legalizing of we had some problems using St. Lucia, you know, and now we decided we and most governments do support the arts, you know. It's about organizing the artists and formalizing the art form, you see. So now we're on the final furlong of getting the Association for Music and music performers and producers in order.
How will that benefit the members?
Well, as a grouping, then as a grouping,
you see, because there's
there's
a lot of suspicion. People are suspicious of each other.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know the travails of ECHO.
Yes.
Just recently, in terms of managing the finances of the organization and so on, and musicians being very suspicious. And even when they got money, they believed that it was just pittance, you know, and they were suspicious. They believed that the money was going elsewhere or somewhere else.
That's right.
Okay? But how do you get rid of that, the suspicion among musicians?
Well, to begin with, you started by saying that the onus is on the musicians, because having the talent and producing a song is one part of it. How do you market it? How do you market yourself? How do you make it bring in the bucks to you? You know, are you registered? Are you registered with ECHO? Do you register your performances? Do you register your recordings? Do you have a distributor? Do you have a promoter? Tim, we have to go back to educating the little ones in the business of music and formalizing the profession called music and the creative industries in a way that they will approach it the same way they will approach a degree in accounts, right? A degree in marketing. They will look at themselves as musicians, that industry has been formalized, and they could approach it the same way. To debunk the adage that, you know, it's not a profession, you cannot make. We have examples. The same way we have Derek Walcott, we also have aspiring cultural activists, cultural poets, you know, we have playwrights, and they could aspire to Derek Walcott. We have Boingson. You could aspire to achieving what Boo has achieved. But the boat has left us in our own personal development. So right now, I think some of the musicians to the Jazz Festival, our biggest showcase, that you see now, the focus is on highlighting more local music. The focus of the Folk Research Center, and you look at June Creole, highlighting our folk music. To go back to your question about the support and stuff, look at the West Indies female team. Over 7,000 people. We are patriotic. You have to come good, and then you have to create that vibe where people...
I think generally St. Lucians are patriotic, but one thing is we love winners.
We love winners.
We love winners.
We love winners.
If you are failing, we tend very often to abandon you.
Yeah.
We know we like to associate ourselves with a successful product, a successful individual.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what's happening.
Consistent, being consistent. Being consistent. So I think the government has a role to play. I think the government is on a good footing, as far as where the government, the Minister of Culture, you know, Honorable Fortuna Bellwood, where she wants to see the creative industries, which encapsulates all the music and everything. It's on a good trajectory, and I think it's a promising period for musicians in St. Lucia.
One of the concerns of Ronald Bohingson and a number of other musicians is the kind of airplay that is given to local music. Are you satisfied with the kind of airplay we're getting?
It's ridiculous. Tim, it starts with...
I mean, the Dennery segment is getting a lot of airplay.
Yes.
During the carnival season, the calypsos, soca music, and so on are getting a lot of airplay. Why are you saying that
It begins with education. It begins with our DJs. It begins with our producers. It begins with our mindset. Okay? Now, on the air, we have the old school DJs. There is a gap. And there we have the younger Turks. We have to allow them to do what they do. But with the lack of education knowing what was the Reasons Orchestra, the Big Six Orchestra. When you came into the media profession, you knew you had to step up every day of your life, which entails a lot of research, a lot of reinventing yourself, a lot of knowledge. It doesn't make sense. You're not going to play music if you don't know where it comes from. We have people like Penn, Ace, who are going to take our old indigenous music and make it palatable, make it playable. And then my son would ask, "Hey, Daddy, I heard a new song." And I told him that's not a new song. That's by either Cécile Descartes or by from Ancillary. You know, Leonard Pierre. Sorry, no, Leonard Pierre. Okay? And then who is Leonard Pierre? Then I have to re-educate. So, being a DJ, and going back to your question of why we lack the confidence that we could play St. Lucian music, improve our St. Lucianness, and put it out there, is because we have people coming into the industry that they're there for the now, how popular I am. It's not that as a DJ I come to educate, because we must understand. I didn't understand while studying in California, DJs were doing psychology and sociology. I had a friend who was a DJ and I didn't understand why. When I got into studying of musicianship and stuff, I understand why. The sociology and psychology, because a DJ could make a break. A DJ could change your mood. Now, you find we have on the air a cadre of DJs who are actually educating. They are the ones nurturing the pulse of the nation. And I'm not saying that they're not skillful and stuff like that, but we have to be very careful. What is played on the air in St. Lucia, Tim? We have to look at this. We have to look at how these licenses of these radio stations are acquired, and that we have to put quotas in place, that you play X amount of local music.
Let's move on to another activity, that is St. Cecilia Day coming up tomorrow. Yeah. What will happen on that day?
The musicians are going to play. I mean, I got calls. We have in excess of 21 bands, around the island. And I got calls from Labrie, from Viewport, Soufrière, Gros-Islet, and they wanted to be part of it. So what you found out, within we thought, the government thought, our 40th anniversary is coming up. Let us look into that journey and support, especially within the arts and the art form and the artisan. Let us support these programs. St. Cecilia's Day is one of them. There are groups who want to reform. There are bands who want to regroup. Let us support that. Let us give them the assurance that the government is going to support them. Let us get the musicians to start playing. Let us get live music back into our entertainment spots. Let us give Echo the teeth it needs, so that when we go to collect our checks, that we are not disappointed. Let us organize this industry in a way that is conducive to the new world order. We must stop thinking St. Lucian, and we must think global. This is a multi-billion-dollar global industry. St. Lucia got talent. St. Lucia got a whole lot of talent. We cannot keep it to ourselves. We have to keep nurturing these young musicians, support the School of Music, which is the intention of the minister, to get a musical academy going, where, entertainment, poetry, just to bring it back, to get us back on the right footing.
The entertainment will start at what time and where?
I do my own thing in terms of being by the market, and the musicians come in, we feed them, and it's going to start like 5:30. We're going to play. We want more musicians to be roaming. I had a couple meetings with some of the musicians where they wanted to play, what they wanted to do, and we supported them. So from a Marsha area, we're going to have the malls, we're going to have the Derek Walcott Square, we're going to have the policeman always does their thing, and kudos to them. Kudos to the Chief Mondesi and Dylan and Dyson and these guys, they have kept that tradition alive. Some of the schools have called me and asked, are they going to come to the school to play for the children, which they usually do. So the enthusiasm and interest is there. Steve Barbershop, kudos to him. He has kept that alive. In excess of 60 musicians will pass through there. For the course of the day, we're going to talk, we're going to have breakfast, we're going to vibes, and we're going to play. You know, in the evening of tomorrow night, Tim, I remember going to the square as a little boy, and there was Quavers, Big Six, Magic Circle, True Tones, Merrymakers, Sugarcane. There was as much
on
as
St. Cecilia's Day.
Bands.
On St. Cecilia's
Yes.
Day? Okay.
We have to bring that back. But we cannot bring that back if we don't encourage the groupings and the regroupings. So
I understand that the folks at Monier, they have an activity tomorrow as well.
The folks at Monier.
Featuring
folks
the
at
Secret
Labon,
Band.
Secret Band. Folks at Monier, folks at Labon, folks at Laguerre by Jennifer's Place. We have two bands. We have Impacts, we have Addition Band playing, we have Secret Band, you know, in Viewport we have, in Labrie, we have Extra Love, we have Labrie Steel Orchestra, we have 4 bands playing on the Labrie Square, and they just volunteered their time and their skill. In Soufriere, we have Future Lights, you know, we have Nigel and these guys, we have at Whispers, they honoring the day by giving the public some public performances and stuff. We have Pantime coming on board. We have, I mean, you just name it. We have music at the ministries. Some of them have called, even, well, the schools have called. Some of the musicians wanted to go to serenade the patients at the Victoria Hospital. If permission is granted, they're going to do that. So the sentiment and the interest is there. And I'm very happy to say that we are very well supported by the Ministry of Culture.
You're watching Newsmaker Live with my guest, Mr. Buffalo Odlum. When we come back, we'll be hearing from you via your calls, so please stay with us. We'll be back. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. We'll put the telephone number on screen right now so that you can call with your questions and comments for my guest. Once again, he is Buffalo Odlum, and political activist and musician. And we conclude at 10 o'clock this evening with the clip that peaked. So far, during the first segment, we focused on politics, and the second segment we just concluded focusing on the local music industry, and in particular the observance of St. Cecilia's Day tomorrow. Lots of activities taking place around the island, as you heard from Buffalo, commencing at 5:30 in the morning. We have a call in line. Good evening. This is Newsmaker Live. You on the air? Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Good evening to you, sir. You're on the air. Good evening.
Hi, Tim. I'd just like to call and compliment Buffalo on his presentation this evening. I think he was very organized and very focused, even during the political segment of his contribution. I think his ideas were very clear. I think there were some ideas that needed to be articulated by someone for the edification of the St. Lucian public, who seem not to understand the UDOPRI's policies and its means of accomplishing what it tends to accomplish. It's also very refreshing to have somebody as energetic and enthusiastic as Buffalo back in the St. Cecilia's fray and doing his bit to support musicians and the music industry in St. Lucia. So once again, congratulations, and I'm happy to see Buffalo, making a contribution in the area that is interested in.
Okay, thank you so much for calling.
Yeah.
See you, Buffalo.
Yeah, well, I thank the caller very much for that. I mean, I'm sincere where my interest in music is concerned, and I think it's something we have to we have to keep going. And Tim, the creative industries is not just the musicians. It's these people who came and they contributed. I mean, when we talk about the creative industries, Boots Samuel, Fish, Kennedy Hippolyte, we talk about people like Joyce Ogis, Drania Frederick, June Frederick. There are a cadre of enthusiasts who are trying to put this industry together. And I think the government is doing well to have a lot of these consultations that we know what happened then, we know what's happening now, and to bringing all these people, Barbara Jacob, Jalims, these people who, and the new mindset, to pool them together, to find out where we're going as an industry, not just as musicians. So on St. Cecilia's Day, we have to celebrate the development of all these sectors of the music and creative industry.
But definitely the concern remains, because in spite of what will be done by the key other stakeholders and the government and pumping money into the music industry and having a creative industries ministry and all that, and a minister was dedicated to that particular area, obviously that will amount to nothing, to zilch, if the musicians do not put their house in order.
If that is true, and they're through the CDF, the government wants to know how is the Calypso Association going to regroup.
Take for example, for so long now, the Calypsonians have been without an association.
Yes.
What you have, I think, is an amalgamation of different entities coming together to preside over the affairs of the Calypsonians.
That is coming to an end because through the CDF, they have already met with the stakeholders and the members of the defunct association to bring that back. Even the Pan Association, the cultural groupings, to bring these entities back, stamp, So then, with the organization or an organizational structure, we could look into it, we could buy into it, and we could move on.
We have a caller line. Good evening, Newsmaker Live, you're on the air. Hello.
Tim.
Hi, good evening to you, sir.
You are a man that do everything. Could you confirm, or I'm hearing some rumor, is Wiggy Sentome been arrested?
No, caller, we can't go into that. And based on what you say, if anybody has been arrested in connection with any particular crime of a sexual nature, etc., you cannot identify the individual because under the laws, you really cannot identify the person. More than that, if somebody has been charged with any crime, it's not fair to publicize them and so on. In the final analysis, let's say the case has been brought before the courts, the person is found innocent, then you've already sullied the person's reputation. And also what you're doing is inadvertently, identifying the victim. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we continue to take calls on the program. Once again, this is Newsmaker Live with my guest, Buffalo Odlum. We're focusing on politics. If in case you missed it, during the first segment, he focused on politics, and he had made an assessment of the stewardship of Mr. Philip JPS so far as political leader. Was not a good one, and he also focused on the local music industry. Good evening, you're on the air.
How are you?
I'm okay, sir. How are you?
All right.
That's a great Suku.
Yeah, man.
Pan.
Uncle Suku.
Pan.
Yeah, how are you doing?
How are you?
Pan Junior. Yes, I'm fine, thank you.
Yeah, but I listened to your news spin on there. I was there watching you. All right?
With your partner?
Yeah. You said something, man, and that one really struck a note, during news spin. The amount of bands on any one night, you make a wrong car street.
Yes.
You pass on that street there by the Ave Maria, you hear vibratones practicing.
Right. Yeah, that is right.
Lower down the street, you hear your father and them, Big Six.
Yeah.
You go up Marshall by the Star, Dixie there.
Yeah.
You hear Matadors.
That's right.
You would hear Quavers by the Chaussee.
Yeah.
True Tones, Brogley Street.
Yeah.
CYO Harmonites by Parish Center.
Yeah, you're a Central Castries boy.
And you just take as a young lad, man, you take a lime around Castries.
Yeah.
And you listen to 2-3 tunes practiced by so many bands.
Yes.
That was so nice, you know, and you argue which band better than the other.
That's right.
And they're all practicing to get to, when weekend come, they would have their favorite spot where they would play. Who playing at Gatey? That is your father and them. Gatey
That's
was
right.
their favorite spot.
And
those at Palm Beach, Camelot, Quavers, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
Harmonize.
Yeah, and Suko, as a man who's well traveled, don't limit it to Castries, you know.
Yeah?
You go to Ancillary, you would hear Sicilian Rays.
No. I'm talking about what I know at Lyman around Castries.
Right, but I'm telling you, you go to Canaries.
I know.
That is where we both. Merrymakers. I heard them practice in Canaries.
You wouldn't lime them places on
I'm telling you, Soufre, you would hear Rebuff and the other bands, and Viewfort. Don't forget Survival. Survival in Viewfort.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you could cut, yeah.
Yeah. But the point I'm making there is that along with, you know, and them time didn't well have TV yet, you know.
No.
Maybe TV came a little later there in Dark Shadows and all them kind of things.
Yeah.
And you'd hear youngsters talking about the football game at Marsha and VG.
CYU and Shamrock.
And listening to music.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with the decline of sport and music in this country, that's synonymous with the rise in crime, you know.
That is true.
You know, this country has not managed technological development, you know.
Not well.
That's the problem, you know, my brother. One of the major problems.
One of the major problems.
The demise of the band and the computerized music and television and from cinema, Gatey and Clark to television.
Yep.
You know, from the big band to the computerized music, from the computer to the cell phone. You know, everybody, people become more, have been becoming less and less sociable in this country. Yeah. And that's what music is all about. Music and sports is all about community, and communion of people.
And Suko, remember the caliber of people we had on our airwaves?
That's another thing. I mean, Buffalo, you know, man, I sometimes I listen. English language is so poor in this country. It's a real shame.
I keep highlighting that.
And on the forefront of that is the media. You have some people on the media. You know what I mean?
A laptop makes you an announcer now.
Okay, Suko.
I don't purport to be any.
Don't criticize my media people. Okay.
I'm not testing English, you know. But my point here is that we all want our children to pass English.
Yes.
But we seem unconcerned about how we speak it in public, you know. And that's not just limited to the media. I mean, the politicians, everybody, I mean, most people, you hear speaking subject, predicate, object, you know, the use of the verb, pronunciation.
The past participle is non-existent.
Atrocious.
Diction, deplorable.
So, I mean, really and truly, is do your own thing, you know, in this country right now, Buffalo.
Well, we have to regroup.
But I'm happy that, you know, you're staying on course. I mean, you have always shown your passion, demonstrated your passion. You have been there a long time. Yeah. And now...
I'm not that old, Suko. I'm not like you, you know.
Yeah, but you look older than me.
That is true.
There, you know.
I have that look.
What you're up to. But Buffalo, I'm happy that you stay in the course, and it seems that, you know, you're getting institutional support. You know what I mean? You're a man who have known how to trot both sides.
Yes, I must admit.
You seem to be a George.
Yeah. I've gotten support from both sides.
George Buffalo Compton. That's a good name for you?
I'll take what you give me.
George Odlum and John Compton.
Yeah, well, I'll take what you give me, but I haven't got there yet. I haven't gotten to that.
Okay,
Buffalo Compton.
Okay, Suko, thank you so much.
All right.
Once again, we continue to take your calls. For my guest is Buffalo Odlum. We're focusing on politics, and we're also focusing on the local music industry, as we're just a few hours away from observing St. Cecilia's Day, and that is tomorrow with a series of activities around the island. We have a caller line. Good evening. What is your contribution, caller?
Yeah, good evening, Tim.
Hi, good evening to you, sir.
And also good evening, sorry, to your guest.
Good evening, sir.
As onto the part of Mr. Buffalo music, I did not really follow everything that was said because I had to be switching off not off at on my TV. But I want to encourage him to continue with the work that he's doing. But earlier on, I was following him when you just came on air on the part of the different parties in St. Lucia, which is the St. Lucia Labour Party and the United Workers' Party. And I want to somehow kind of differ with him because to me, I find that he do not have enough balls. And even to say, even when his party is doing something wrong, that is because I listen to him carefully and cautiously. And he was very much on the back of the St. Lucia Labour Party. And the very question, you spin it back to him, Tim. And it's like all he did was just to defend the present Prime Minister and also the party. Now, I look at the Prime Minister as a young man in the country, myself, and I look at the Prime Minister. And I'm seeing that he's making a lot of errors. But tonight is really not a night of politics. But however, I want to say to Mr. Buffalo.
Okay, what are those errors? What are those errors,
no,
caller?
no, it is a night of politics.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
you could go
errors,
there.
to me, the direction the Prime Minister is going, especially the way that he's handling the affairs of the country,
But give me
the
specifics, sir,
things
caller.
that he's
Give me a
doing,
specific.
for instance,
Give me
taking
specific.
decision on St. Jude Hospital and other, when I watch our health centers, our schools, our hospital, I find to me these things are not being given priority.
By which
When
government?
I look at a Prime Minister is giving a horse racing track priority over a hospital, I find to me, it's like for me, it's a man who is thinking backward. However, I want to say if he does not change his direction, I want to say that to Mr. Buffalo. If the Prime Minister does not change his direction, there is no way he can win back the general election in 2021. And we will be surprised. But Mr. Philip Jacob, which everybody has been saying that it's like he's just another person in Kenny Anthony. It don't really matter for me. But I think he's going to win this election landslide. You may take it as a joke, but it is not a joke. Because you see, one thing I've learned in life, open rebuke is better than secret love. And also better is the wounds of a friend than the kisses of an enemy. Now I look at our black men around the Prime Minister, and it's like to me it's the same mental state.
Okay, caller, don't go there, don't go there, don't go there,
there.
don't go there, don't go there, caller.
So
All right,
both
thank you so
sides,
much.
man,
Thank you
don't
so
go
much for
there.
calling.
Yeah. Very good contribution. And no, very good contribution.
Apart from the last point.
Apart from
Yeah.
the last point, because you have to have time for people who are analytical, and he's analytical in his assessment, but that's his personal view, right? When I look at the pulse of the nation and the agitation that's coming from the St. Lucia Labour Party, it does not balance.
We have a call.
Yeah.
Good evening, Newsmaker Live, you on the air?
Hi, good evening, Timothy. Good
Hi.
evening, Buffalo.
Good evening, Dr. Wilson, how are you?
Good
Doc.
evening. Hi, what's up?
You talking to the as a doc or
I
a
don't want
musician?
to talk politics. I want to talk about the traditional way that we start the Christmas season
Yeah,
in St. Lucia, and especially in Miku. We used to start with the Siwenal.
the seminar.
All right.
Yes.
I don't know if you know about Siwenal, the drums
of course, I know,
and
I
all
know,
of that
I
kind
know
of
about
things and so on. So
It
in
emanates from Miku and
Monrepo, I think, well, in Monrepo it's still there,
Still there.
but in a community called Labon in Moshi, which is the home of Secret Band,
That's right.
you will find the rhythm, all right? Even the children are into the beat and everything.
Yes.
So what we normally used to do, we still do it. We have a house-to-house and in Labon, and we normally finish at one particular point.
That's right.
But tomorrow night, you will experience the real solo of the community of Labon, Moshi.
Yes.
And when you get there, you will see the beats, or in other words, the remnants of the real African beats in the solo and so on.
Yes.
So places like Labon, La Pointe, Deramo,
yes.
these people, Chatmel, these people are very,
right.
very, very good with that beat. So the Secret Band is really amalgamation of what was happening in the community.
That's
Actually, they started off with the Siwenal and they just formed the Secret Band. So if the place to be tomorrow night is Labon Moshi.
That's from what time?
Okay?
Yes.
From what time?
That's from about 7 p.m.
And Doc, hold on for a second. I mean,
no. Timothy, I always like my solo and my Siwenal.
No, let me expound on that, because what I found, what Sigwe or Secret Band has brought to the fore as a musician is the following of the younger generation. We have to give kudos to Secret Band and their members. They've been very, very, very patriotic. And Timothy, she's right. If you go into the communities, these guys are not just playing music. They're bringing back history. There is an interest for the younger people, and we know that. And even that performance there for tomorrow, the Ministry of Education has rendered support to the band for that event to become a success. And I give kudos to them, especially for keeping the tradition alive. St. Lucians do support.
Yes.
Secret Band is a very good band, and that is why St. Lucians will support them, and I support them 100%. Kudos to the members of that group.
As I said, actually, they came out of the Siwenal, because we used to have the Siwenal from the November period up to Christmas time.
Yes.
And that was also very prevalent in the Monrepo, La Pointe area, because when I was growing up, we had people like Sesen, their scat group, and the Julesies, and these people used to make the drums with the lapocap, with the skin of the goat and so on, and the children would follow the Siwenal starting from November away until the night before Christmas. So that is maintained in Labon and Moshi area. So if you really want to experience that, you can come up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you so much for calling the broadcast.
Yeah, you're very, very welcome.
And we wish you all the best. And I'm sure it'll be a very successful
and
St. Cecilia's Day tomorrow.
It shows that governments.
Well, I point so we have the final call.
Yeah.
Good evening. Newsmaker Live, you're on the air. Hello.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening to you, ma'am. You're on the air. Okay, there's a feedback. Can you address it first, please?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to ask your guest, when is the musical, Monrepo has some Christmas music. I would like to know what day, please.
Monrepo has, can you repeat the question?
Christmas festival music.
A Christmas festival. Well, I mean, Monrepo is known for its indigenous groups. I mean, that's the home and the birthplace of Sesen Descartes. So it's a place that is extremely rich in culture.
But I get the impression there's an activity coming up.
For the season, they have many different activities. And even now, the reopening of the Place Sesen, I know that, the groups are very enthusiastic about coming together. I mean, Monrepo has its own pulse. So I'm hoping she's asking.
So you know of no specific activities coming up in Monrepo?
Well, not the dates, but
Okay.
I know there are activities.
Okay.
I cannot give you a date.
I thought you were part of,
Yes.
of what is
Yes.
happening in Monrepo.
We are talking to them.
Okay.
In
All right, thank you so much for calling.
In celebration of our 40th anniversary of independence, we're talking to these groups because they themselves have their own plans and their own way that they want to celebrate. So we were in discussion with them. But as far as the traditional Christmas celebration is concerned, I'm not too sure of the date, but they are they are
Final comments from you, Buffalo?
Tim, you see where our music and culture is concerned? Successive governments and the present government must have faith in St. Lucia. Have faith in St. Lucians. Have faith in the younger ones. the younger ones lean towards older processes that are packaged in a different way. Sigwe, you talk about the Tenry segment, we talk about all these other, the indigenous music and the indigenous cultures. There was a huge increase in the amount of younger people that took part in our Laos and La Marguerite celebration this year. So have faith in the Folk Research Center. Have faith in the CDF. Have faith in the people who have the passion to bring this together. We are working on getting our music back to scale. We're working on giving the younger musicians that view, that vision, that the music can be something they could rely on both for the economic and social development. So I want to say that it's not about me. There are a lot of people in the background who are not even musicians who keep calling and donating food. We have 3 different people who are going to come by different locations to give the musicians food just because they believe in that tradition. We're going to look back at the days where we had so many bands that apart from a church service, we had a games night and we had a combos versus orchestras, right? There were so many bands. We're looking back now. We're looking back at it and we're looking at now to relive, that tradition and to bring that kind of the musical and social environment back to St. Lucia. So I must say that I'm very enthusiastic about the participation of the music, and I think it would only augur well for the music industry.
Well, thank you so much, and I wish you the best of success as far as the observance tomorrow, St. Cecilia's Day, and we look forward to having a post-mortem as to what really transpired and so on.
And it's a bon fête to all musicians.
Thank you so much for watching the broadcast, and thank you so much for contributing via your calls. If it's Wednesday, it's Newsmaker Live. Time now for the clip that peaked.
Aku come out. Wait.
My name is Timothy Paulion saying good night. See you next time.